How's it going, everyone? In this video, we have some big news on Shinsuke Nakamura, the Lucha Brothers, and a whole lot more. But before we begin, please make sure to drop a like on this video. I would really appreciate it. Alright guys, so for our first story of today, we have some big news on potential plans for a newly signed WWE star. So after leaving New Japan Pro Wrestling and then signing with WWE several months ago, it finally looks like the company has plans for this former New Japan Pro Wrestling star. Because according to a new report from Mike Johnson, a PW insider, HikuLEO has been reportedly added internally to the NXT roster, which seems to indicate that he will be starting his WWE career in NXT and will not be involved in the bloodline storyline on the main roster as he was rumored to be. Next up, we have the latest news on Miro's request to depart from AEW. So after he recently requested his release from AEW after a not-so-great run with the company, from the looks of it, Miro may have to stay with AEW for a very long time, because according to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, after first signing a low-money deal with AEW back in 2020, Miro would then sign a much more lucrative deal in 2022, reportedly worth 7 figures. So if his request to be released is ultimately denied, Miro would have to stay with AEW until 2026. Next, we have some very bad news for Rey Fénix, because even though it was reported that the Lucha Brothers had signed with WWE and that merchandise was already being made for their main roster debut, apparently that is not the case. In fact, their departure from AEW has not even been confirmed, as Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer reports that at this point in time, Rey Fénix has not been told that he's being released or will be allowed to go to WWE because he still has 1 year left due to injury time off. His contract itself expires the same time as Penta's, so if Tony Khan decides to add injury time to Fénix's current deal, Rey Fénix won't be able to go to WWE for another year. Moving on to our next story, we have some very unfortunate news for Shinsuke Nakamura, because despite working several WWE live event shows in August, for some reason Shinsuke Nakamura has been off of WWE programming for several months now. Well, according to a new report from Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, Shinsuke Nakamura is sadly in the same boat as AJ Styles, because just like AJ, Nakamura is not injured. In fact, he's actually healthy and is simply not being used on WWE television. So now guys, I want to give you my thoughts and opinions on all of the stories that we discussed today. Starting off with our first story, we did talk about HikuLEO, and apparently WWE has some pretty interesting things planned for him, because it is being reported that HikuLEO has been added to the NXT roster list, which is pretty surprising in my opinion, because for several weeks now or even months now, there have been rumors saying that HikuLEO would be joining the new bloodline to take on, Roman Reigns at Survivor Series, because Roman Reigns is potentially going to have backup at Survivor Series War Games, and that would see him join up with Jey Uso and Jim Uso and potentially even Sami Zayn, and that HikuLEO was rumored to be joining the new bloodline to perhaps cost Roman Reigns that match. But apparently WWE has other plans for HikuLEO that would see him begin his WWE career in NXT. However, there is still some time left until Survivor Series War Games, so perhaps WWE can write him in to the bloodline storyline, but that obviously remains to be seen. The next story that we talked about was on Miro, and that at this point in time, Tony Khan has not granted Miro his request to be released from the company. Now, according to multiple reports, they are saying that Miro, since joining AEW, that due to injuries and also because of creative disagreements, Miro has not had the best run in AEW, and that pretty much he did sign his first contract that he signed with AEW was in 2020, and apparently it wasn't for a big money deal. However, he did sign a new deal in 2022, and that one was worth a lot of money, 7 figures if my memory is correct, and that he has until 2026. So in my opinion, guys, with all of the disagreements that have been had between Miro and Tony Khan in regards to creative decisions, I do think that it is best for Tony Khan to just grant Miro his request to be released. And it does remain to be seen, guys, if WWE has interest in signing Miro once he becomes a free agent. That is, of course, if Tony Khan grants him his request to depart from the company, which if he doesn't, he could stay with them for a couple of years left until 2026. The next story that we talked about was on Rey Fénix, and for him as well, it is very similar to Miro's contract situation. Because Rey Fénix, as at this point in time, he and his brother Penta El Cero Miedo have not been I guess you could say their current status with AEW is that they are still with the company and they have not been granted their departure, I guess you could say, or their contracts have not officially expired. However, according to this report from Dave Meltzer, he is saying that as it pertains to Penta El Cero Miedo, he will be free to leave when his contract expires. However, for Rey Fénix, it is looking very complicated. So basically, it will all depend on whether Tony Khan will not add the injury time off to Rey Fénix's contract, so then he could leave with his brother Penta El Cero Miedo to WWE when their current deals expire. The other story that we talked about was on Shinsuke Nakamura, and some very unfortunate news for Shinsuke as well. Because if you guys remember just a few weeks ago, I did talk about AJ Styles and why he's been missing from WWE television. And basically, it's for the same reason as Shinsuke, and that is because WWE Creative has basically nothing for him. And he is healthy, and he did recently work some house shows in August for WWE. But it does seem like Shinsuke Nakamura will not be returning to WWE television until Creative comes up with something for him to do, and which is pretty crazy in my opinion, because someone like Shinsuke Nakamura, you would think that WWE Creative would have something for him, but apparently they don't. So with that being said, guys, that is all of the news that we have for today. Please make sure to let me know your thoughts and opinions on all of the stories that we discussed today. So for our first story, we did talk about HikuLEO joining the NXT roster. We also talked about Miro not being granted his release at this point in time. We also talked about Rey Fénix and whether he can leave AEW, which seems very difficult at this point in time. And also on Shinsuke Nakamura, WWE Creative not having anything for him so he can return to television at this point in time. So with that being said, guys, that is all of the news that we have for today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.